Welcome to Spa. This is a long track, so we'll get right into it. I want you to spend most of your time out on track. As always, first we watch the lap, then we analyze. Here are the conditions that the lap was set in. As we approach T1, we're on the lookout for the 100 board, and we're on the lookout for these little tire marks that go diagonal. The second one is your best bet for braking. We're going to turn in fairly late here because we're trying to get a good exit. We want to straighten up the car as early as possible and get on throttle confidently. We want to run over the curbing here, but not too much, otherwise the car will bottom out. And when we're coming out here, we want to focus on a really good exit, and we want to make sure that we don't run over this curbing completely. But we want to avoid the last third as much as possible because that's going to kick the traction control, and we want to stay off of that. The other option is to get on the red sausage curb. However, it is difficult. You got to be very precise in order to use it. So I would advise just staying off of that last third here and maximizing your exit down the Kemmel Street. As we approach the Rouge, what we want to be is on the right-hand side of the track. We turn in, straight line this as much as possible, run over the curbing with all four tires, and we're aiming for the top part of a Rouge because we want to steer as little as possible and then straight lining this last part as well. The key thing to carrying the most amount of speed through a Rouge is to minimize the steering angle. Because if you have more steering angle, then you're going to scrub off speed because the tires are going to be pointed somewhere else. So make sure that keep that steering wheel as straight as possible. As we approach Lacombe, we want to be on the lookout for the 100 board. We want to be braking before the curbing. Early braking. Getting on the curb completely all the way to the left-hand side. Fairly early turn-in because we want to run over this green painted surface. Really important to get those right-hand side tires on the green painted surface because that rotates the car to the right. It keeps us on the right-hand side of the track so that we can have this left-hander opened up a little bit more. We want to get these left-hand side tires on the left side of the curbing because that will grab the car a little bit and bring it to the left so that we don't end up all the way on the right-hand side. Want to end up roughly in the middle of the track here and bring the car back to the left-hand side curb. Grazing this curb with our left-hand side tires, keeping our eye on the right-hand side of the track here, on the green painted surface again. We want to run as close to that green painted surface as possible. I miss it a little bit here, but you can get on top of this. Probably gain a little bit more time. And finally, on the exit, want to run as far wide as possible. We can actually dip the left-hand side tires on the gravel just a little bit. That will not slow you down and it will not be an off track. As we approach Rivage, we want to be braking before the curbing. We want to point the car towards the first apex. Treat this as a double apex corner. First apex is around the green painted surface there. We're hugging the curbing as much as possible. Just dab it on the brake, feeling out the rotation on the car. And as we see the exit, we want to get on throttle fairly confidently, probably not all the way to 100%, but eventually we will get to 100% and we want to run the car roughly to the 3/4 mark here on the pavement. Get the car back to the right as early as possible, get on that curbing, brake early, get the car turned in, grazing this curb and throttle really, really early. The car will tend to push quite a bit here if you get on the brakes late. You can get on the gravel a little bit here on exit as well, similar to the exit of Lacombe. But remember, the key thing here is as you're braking here, if you brake too late, the car will start to slide. The front tires will start to slide and you won't be able to make it to this apex. It'll be very, very, very clear when you're braking too late. So as we approach Buon, I'm actually looking here for the 50 board on my peripheral, getting the car on the curbing, braking at around the 50 board, fairly light, and getting the car turned in fairly early to hug this curbing. We want to graze it and we want to get on throttle fairly early and rotate the car on throttle. But if you get on the throttle too early or you brake a little bit too late, you're going to notice how much push the car will get. It'll understeer quite a bit. You'll hear the tires just screeching. It will not want to come back to the second apex over here. And you're going to lose quite a bit of time because you're going to be scrubbing that front right tire. It's going to overheat and you're going to have a tough time for the rest of the lap. And then as we move on here to the S's, we want to be on the brakes before the curbing. Try not to use the shadow because the shadow is not always there. We want to graze the curbing on the left-hand side as we brake. It's a fairly late turn in here. But what we want to do again here is graze the curbing with our right-hand side tires and just follow it. Get on throttle fairly early and just manage that throttle to get the car to the middle of the track so that we can open up this left-hander. We turn in fairly early, earlier than you think, so that we can get these left-hand side tires on the green painted surface and on this cobblestone here. And you'll know when the car's ready to get to 100% throttle. You can run a little bit of the right-hand side tires on the gravel here. It's not an off track. And it's not really going to slow you down because there's not a big straight over here. Then we get the car back to the left-hand side. And the key thing here is look how early this brake is. It's so easy to try and maximize the braking zone here. But you got to remember that Stavelot leads to possibly the longest full throttle section here because Blanchimont is flat out in these cars at the moment. And so you got to make sure you get a great exit here. And you can really compromise it by braking late. So just brake early, trust me. And you're going to be passing a lot of people into the bus stop if you do this. Try not to get your right-hand side tires on the curbing there. Just graze it. It'll spit you out to the left-hand side. You can actually touch the gravel just a little bit. Fairly late turn in here. If you turn in too early, you're going to end up on this gravel over here. It's going to be very easy to tell. And also, one thing to keep in mind is as we're drifting out here, if you end up on this green stuff, sometimes it's hard to keep the car back to the right. It kind of, this curbing here kind of hooks the car and you want to avoid that. So try not to get on this green stuff. As I mentioned, Blanchiment flat out. Get your right hand side tires on that green painted surface. Run all the way out to the curbing. And as we approach the bus stop, we're on the lookout for the white line, and we're braking after the white line. There's also some discoloration here, as you can see. It's fairly faint, but it is fairly accurate in terms of getting on the brakes there. Just as we cross that, start to get on the brakes, we're braking diagonally in a straight line to the turning point, which is the curbing here. Not completely on the curbing. Could have probably used a little bit more curbing, but remember, these are high curbs. You want to stay off the last third of these curbs. And the key thing for the bus stop is maintain your minimum speed. Don't overslow the car down. This is where most people go wrong, is they overslow the car down here. So keep that minimum apex speed up and prioritize having the car to the right here. Instead of trying to carry as much speed as possible, try to carry sufficient speed to make sure the car is to the right of the middle, roughly, right? So that you can get a better exit here. And then on exit, you have two options. You can either straddle the curb the way I did, or you can keep the car to the left-hand side of the last third of the curbing. Otherwise, you're going to be hitting quite a bit of traction control and lose a lot of time. And that wraps it up for us. That is a lap of Spa.